All right, guys, I'm Nicolette, and today we are talking about food. So, kids love snacks, mom loves a nice dinner, and hopefully, dad will eat anything you give them. But this concept of making meals is very different today than it was in the 1950s, right? Women took on more of the role of homemaker, and they had an opportunity to create well balanced and intricate meals for their families. I'm Italian, so I grew up thinking food was the be all and end all, and we centered everything around food. My great grandmother, my grandmother, they were always trying to feed people. And I feed all the kids in the neighborhood, and I tell everybody that's just how we show love. So, but the reality is feeding a family is pretty hard after you've worked all day and now you've got to commute, your kids have homework, they've got to get to, soccer. Who's got time to make a good dinner? So today I'm joined by Linda Letterman, a kitchen confidence coach and owner of Balabusta's Secret, where she helps busy moms with meal planning, prep, and cooking lessons, as well as coaches them on how to serve their delicious dinners with side dishes of games and clever conversations with their family. So we're going to talk about having stress-free dinners. And I just want to thank you, Linda, for joining me today. And let's dive in a little bit.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks.
All right, so kick us off. Tell us your story about being a tired mom. You don't want to cook over, now you're working on this. And so I would like to know, how prevalent is cooking fatigue amongst mothers?
It's very prevalent. And I want to start off by saying I used to suck at cooking. I hope I can say that.
Oh,
but I
I
was awful. And when I was in high school, I told my mom she was horrible at cooking. And she said, okay, big shot, I'm going to buy you a cookbook. You're going to make dinner once a week. And you're going to show me what not boring means. Well, that was fantastic. She bought me The Joy of Cooking, and it's a huge book, and it has no pictures, which puts me at a distinct disadvantage. So I figured I had to pick something really interesting, and the first thing I made was Swedish meatballs. Well, I don't know anything from Swedish meatballs, and believe me, you could tell when you tasted them. They were awful. It was horrible. The next week, I was going to make veal cordon bleu. What do I know from that? Zero. Absolutely zero. And the meal was hideous. By the third week, my family banned me from cooking. Banned. I was banned. And I'm not one to take no for an answer. So then it became a quest of mine to learn how to cook and learn how to cook really well. And I took cooking classes, and I've got over 1,000 cookbooks, and now I never follow a recipe. But the problem is I knew how to cook. And when it came time for raising my family and making dinners after work and after school activities and helping with the homework and working with the dogs and everything else that comes with it, I didn't get dinner on the table till 8:30 at night, 9 o'clock. And I'm trying to tell my kids this is normal. Well, we all know it's not really normal. And my friends used to say, oh, you make food for European time, whatever that means. I mean, but it was totally out of whack with what reality needed. And so I said to myself, something's wrong here. What am I going to do? And I didn't want to sacrifice the quality of the foods that I made. I didn't want to sacrifice the fun time we have at the dinner table. So I set it upon myself to figure out how to cut my corners, how to streamline the process, how to make that delicious food, but make it quicker, better, and maybe not have to cook every day of the week. And so out of that came my business, which is Balabusta's Secret. And what I teach people now is how to batch cook, which means make more of one ingredient at any given time and then use it, the leftovers, for another meal a different time. And when I say use it for another meal, don't necessarily mean to use it the way you intended it to be made. Because if your family is like many other families, kids don't like leftovers. They've seen it, they've eaten it, they're done. Don't show it to me for the rest of the week. So one of the things that I work with people on is how to repurpose your leftovers. So you're not cooking from scratch every night, but you're not making your kids and your family eat the same thing every night. I'll give you a really quick, easy example of that. So let's say I'm making an Indian dish, which sounds really exotic, but you can take chicken tenders, saute them in garlic and ginger and onions for a couple of minutes, and throw in a tikka masala sauce from Trader Joe's, and you have an amazing Indian dish in less than 15 minutes. So you're making a double batch of rice to go with it. You're going to use half the rice with your Indian dish. And then either the next night or 2 nights later, you're going to take that rice and make it into fried rice. And you can add a protein to it. And the reason why I say you can make it into fried rice is because you need day-old rice to make fried rice. So now you're not cooking from scratch and trying to make fried rice and wondering why it's not coming out very well, because you already have your day-old fried rice. So there's many things you can do, and with many, many ingredients, whether it's your main protein, whether it's your side dish, that you can reuse and repurpose later on in the week. So that would be batch cooking. Another thing that I teach people how to do is make meals and then freeze some of them. Meatballs are a great example.
Okay, do they still taste good though when you freeze?
It depends. Some foods don't go near the freezer. I mean, they just come out like mush and potatoes, and it wasn't a potato dish. So you really don't want that when you defrost it, okay? It's not good to eat. But there are other things that are fantastic. So I make a fish stew, like a bouillabaisse. Okay. And you can put whatever fish your kids are willing to eat. Some kids just only want shrimp, so you make your fish with whatever your family wants to eat. But then I freeze it in quantities. And when you freeze something, make sure you label it and date it, because a red soup may look like your tomato sauce. And when you think you're defrosting your soup for dinner and it's tomato sauce, everybody's going to be disappointed. So date it and label it. But there are many things you can do for batch cooking. Another thing that works, freezer cooking. Another thing that's great for freezer cooking, meatballs. They freeze beautifully. And when I make meatballs, sometimes
cooked or not cooked?
Cooked.
Okay.
Yeah. And you actually, if you want to freeze them uncooked, put them on a sheet pan when you put them in the freezer, freeze them, then take them off the sheet pan and put it in some kind of a bag, label it so you're not taking up a whole lot of room. And then you can just bake it in the oven. I usually bake my meatballs because I don't like the splatter on the stove and I don't like the excess fat. So I bake them. But one of the things I make are a spicy Asian meatball. And I make it with turkey meat because it's a little healthier for you. And I bake them. And if I have leftovers, which is rare, but if I have leftovers, I like to freeze them. And then if I'm going to use them in another meal, when I defrost them, you can crumble them and serve them in lettuce wraps with Hoisin sauce. Totally different taste, totally different kind of meal. And it takes minutes to make because they're already cooked.
Okay, so I just want to back up because I'm so happy that you said that kids don't like leftovers. I used to eat leftovers all the time. My son will not eat the macaroni and cheese if it stays on the stove. If he's out playing, I can't mix the cheese. I'll cook the pasta, leave it on the stove. I won't mix anything because all of a sudden it's old and he will not microwave food. One of the, I know we're going to talk about this, but you talked about baking versus frying. Another option could be air frying, because my air fryer is the thing that I can't live without the most. And I do want to talk about some items later that you believe help simplify the life. But that for me, I started air frying my meatballs and my chicken legs, and it's just a life changer. I
just want to stop you for a second. For those of you who are in the audience that don't have an air fryer, if you have a convection setting on your oven, it's pretty much air frying.
Really?
So yeah, so you can set your convection oven to the highest temperature you have, put your food on a rack in a pan so it's not flat.
Okay.
And you can do a lot of time-saving cooking that way as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. Okay. So I'm not a cook. I don't. I don't. I can make chicken cutlets. It's my claim to fame. That's about it. That's about it. And it's my son's favorite, so I will go with that all day long. But I want to also go back to Balabusta and this term, right? Because I did a little research, and I think the significance of this word ties in deeply, into everything. So if you want to explain to everybody where that came from, I'd love that.
Absolutely. So a Balabusta is a very old-fashioned Yiddish word, and literally translated, it means a woman who makes a fine home. Now, my fine home is the opposite of Martha Stewart's fine home. Okay, my fine home means you can come here with your friends, your family, put your feet up on my furniture to be comfortable. I'm going to feed you phenomenal food. We're all going to laugh. We're all going to talk. We're going to have great conversation, and it's going to be a warm and welcoming home. So you want to be the home that everybody wants to go to.
Right.
It's great for you personally. It's great for your kids. It helps you keep an eye on who their friends are and what they're up to. You want to be the go-to home. So these are the secrets on how to have that warm and loving home that everybody wants to go to.
But I guess the issue, right, and kind of the purpose of even this conversation is that, we don't have time sometimes to even make that comfortable place because we're working and we're busy. And I was wondering if you've noticed over the course of your work, some of the ways that moms are kind of coping with dinner, for example, making dinner at 9 o'clock at night, right? And
Mm-hmm.
some of the ways, or chicken nuggets 7 nights a week. Are there any things that you've seen that are kind of recurring themes amongst these moms who think that they don't have time?
Sometimes they think they don't have time because they don't have a broad repertoire of things they can cook really quickly. Sometimes it's because they don't know the shortcuts. You mentioned that you have an Italian background. Well, some Italian grandmothers can make a tomato sauce, takes them 3 hours. Other people can cut up tomatoes, put some fresh herbs in the pot and make a sauce in minutes. So we all think that we have no time because we really feel that there's so many competing interests on us. But when you learn the shortcuts, you have the time. So I'm going to give you one of my time-saving tips, okay? So some people meal plan on Sunday, they make all their meals, and God bless them, those are the people who can do it. That's not me. I can teach you how to do it. When I teach meal planning and meal prep, I try to work around everybody's lifestyles, their family food preferences, what their schedule looks like. There's a whole host of factors to finding the meal plan that works particularly for you. But having said that, the one thing I do every week, and this is a great tip, when I go grocery shopping and I buy, let's say my salad ingredients, I have a huge Tupperware and I line the Tupperware with paper towels. And then I put my lettuces in, my carrots, my red cabbage, anything that's not a water-based food, such as I wouldn't put cucumbers in, I wouldn't put tomatoes in. But other than that, I make the base of my salad, and then I put another paper towel on top, and then I put the Tupperware lid on. That salad will last for a week, very fresh in my refrigerator. So you may be saying to yourself, I'm not going to eat salad every day, but there's other things you can do it. So let's say you have a Taco Tuesday. And in my family, when we have a Taco Tuesday, I take out a Lazy Susan and I have the chopped meat on it. I have the cheddar cheeses, the lettuces, the onions, all the fixings on it. But I could instead, if I was in a time crunch, I could take that salad that I already made and put that on the Lazy Susan, and people could add that to their tacos.
Right.
Or you could use that as a base for dinner a second night. So if you were making, let's say you had grilled shrimp in your dish, well, you could have a salad with grilled shrimp on it the next night, maybe with a different kind of dressing. So once that's made, it can be used for a million things that you're going to use all week.
That is true. I never thought about that. You're really giving me some inspiration here. I got to tell you.
That's the idea.
Because, I know I'm jumping around, but you're just saying so many things that are kind of, and like I said, food is really what makes the world go round in my world. So which is ironic because I don't have time to actually cook anything and I'm not a very good cook, but I do like to eat. So I think about you used to make dinner at 9 o'clock at night. And on the flip side, because my mother was home, she'd have dinner, and we had activities at night and in the evenings. We'd eat dinner at 3:30 sometimes, and that was dinner. And I don't know. Sometimes I do that and everybody's like, aren't you hungry by 7? Yeah. So, looking for that balance, these are some things that you can kind of, I don't know, throw the meat on quickly, and you don't even have to. That's the reality, but what about when you're confined by people's preferences? So you say you work with families, and their families' preferences and things like that. In this house, it's chicken. My son's a chicken eater, but only chicken cutlets. My husband thinks he's on a diet every week, and it's just turkey and chicken, no red meat at all for years. He doesn't eat red meat. So now I want to eat steak. My son will eat steak once in a blue moon. But now how do we kind of, like, you can't make 7 different meals for
No,
people.
and you don't want to. And I don't eat meat. My family does. So I eat fish, but I don't eat meat. My family will eat everything under the sun. At one point, my son was gluten intolerant, so then we had to switch to gluten-free. So I get the concept of different tastes and how to accommodate. There are some things you can do. Make the base of your meals. Like I gave the reference before of the Indian chicken dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Still chicken tenders.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody can eat it. You're making chicken, but you're making it a different way. So sometimes you can take that main food, if it's something that everybody's willing to eat, and use it in different ways, different ethnic cuisines. You can make a stir fry with the chicken. You can do so many different things so you don't feel like you're eating chicken every single night.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many healthy ways you can make it that your husband or whoever else is dieting in your household will feel like, oh yeah, this is great. You could saute it with onion, garlic, and ginger,
Mm-hmm.
and then make baby bok choy on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your son would really like that. Or maybe you want to use a panko crust or a something other than breadcrumbs when you're breading it. So there's another way you can make it to change up the flavors and gradually change it. Now, if you want to make meat and somebody else doesn't want to make meat, think of what you could do for your base. So I'm going to go back to my Indian example because it's an easier one. So make a simmer sauce,
Mm-hmm.
put in chickpeas if everybody wants chickpeas, make your steak on the side.
Right.
And everybody can eat the main dish as a main dish if you put in whatever they want in it. And then you can easily add your dish to the side.
Right. Right.
And then you make enough of your dish where you can have it different ways during the week when you're only focusing on what the other people in your family want to eat.
Right. That's true. All right. I could do that.
So like, here's another thing. So let's say you made a roast chicken one
Right.
night.
Okay.
So back to my reusing, repurposing.
Chicken salad.
Chicken salad. I was going to say chicken taco soup,
Ooh,
which would also be very good with steak fajita.
look at that.
So again, you already got that done, and maybe you froze that soup last time you made chicken, defrost that, and then all you're doing is making your steak for yourself.
Right. Which is a lot easier.
One's easy to defrost. That's not a big time constraint. So there are ways you can play with it depending on the menus that you want to make, where you can be actually eating what you want. Your family could be eating something else, but you're not making the whole meal separate.
Right. I gotcha. You talk about defrosting. Do you ever come across this? I know I'm not alone. I've seen enough memes across social media. You buy all this stuff. You say, all week, I'm going to make this. And then you don't defrost it in time. And, okay, I'll just order pizza tonight. Or you leave things, I don't feel like cooking tonight. And then the stuff stays in there. Or you defrosted it and don't feel like cooking. And then it goes bad after a few days. It's just, do you think that you should purchase that many ingredients in advance? I don't know.
Sometimes one of the things that helps people cook quicker is having a well-stocked pantry, a well-stocked refrigerator, and a well-stocked freezer. And the reason why it's helpful is, let's say you are following a recipe and you're going through the recipe and you go, oh my God, I'm missing fill in the blank. If you have a well-stocked pantry or refrigerator and you know what you're doing, you know what you can substitute. So it's not going to trip you up. So that's one thing. So I think it's really good to have a well-stocked refrigerator and pantry. That said, I don't think it's a good thing to have 5 jars of minced garlic because you forgot them. And each time you go to the grocery store, do I need that, minced garlic? So it's one of the things I have people do is a pantry inventory. So you know what you have and you know what you need to use up. And you know what you need to buy next time around, because we're all guilty of that. I was at an Asian grocery store the other day and it's like, do I need more soy sauce? I forgot to look at my pantry before I left. And of course I bought one and I already had one. So it happens. I'm going to give you a tip about defrosting. So sometimes, obviously it's best to take out your meal the night before and put it in the refrigerator and defrost it in the refrigerator because that's the healthiest way to go. But then there are those of us who are human and forget. I'll count myself among those people who don't always get it right. So here's a quick defrosting tip. If you're going to freeze your meats, freeze them in 1 pound parcels. So some people buy a lot of, let's say, ground turkey, and they like to freeze it because they like to have it. But take the 2 minutes it takes to put them in separate bags of 1 pound each. Because when it comes to defrosting something, if they're in 1 pound packages, you can take a Tupperware or a bowl, put cold water in it, put that baggie of that protein in there. It will be defrosted in under an hour. Change the water once. It doesn't take forever if you put it in cold water. So there are many nights where I'm, afternoons and I'm coming home and it's like, oh, forgot to take out those chicken breasts. But I will put it in cold water and they will be defrosted by the time I need it. And usually, you're not immediately cooking the minute you walk in the house.
Right.
So if you remember to put it in the cold water, then it'll be ready for you to use. Another thing to keep in mind is the smaller your proteins are, the quicker they're going to cook. So obviously chicken tenders are going to cook a whole lot quicker than a chicken breast.
Right.
But if I don't have any chicken tenders and I do have those chicken breasts,
you can cut
I'll
them
slice it.
Yeah.
And then when you're cooking it, again, it takes very little time to cook, sliced, and you can chunk it or slice it or make it look like chicken tenders, whatever you want. But it saves you tremendous time of cooking time. And if you forgot to defrost them, put them in that cold water in the bag for an hour and you're ready to go.
Okay, the cold water thing. I've never done this. I've run things under. I usually just leave the stuff in the sink during the day. But
probably not so good bacteria-wise.
No, I mean in the package.
Still not good bacteria-wise.
No, okay, all right. But I wonder sometimes how much harm.
So far, so good.
I wonder how much harm I'm doing. Sometimes, I've run it under warm water. That can't be good.
Yeah, that's not the best. It works better if it's cold water. Don't use
happens?
Intuitively, you say, well, sure, the warm water is going to melt it, blah, 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 blah. I'm not a scientist. I just know the answer is cold water. I think maybe because it draws out the ice. I don't know. To balance the temperature. I'm making this up, but trust me, it's cold water.
What happens if you accidentally stick your frozen? Okay, I will admit, confession. So I've had chicken that's only partially defrosted, but it was enough to clean it and slice it, and then I fried it. Is that bad?
Okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Okay. I was like, am I not, is this
because
raw
you're cooking it. You're cooking it. So it may not be evenly cooked. And my guess is the outside edges were probably way more well done than the inside of that chicken. But give those outsides to somebody in your family who likes their chicken really well done.
All right. As long as I'm not trying to give anyone, salmonella
but I will
or
say
anything.
this. Some people think that they need to wash their chicken before they cook it.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that.
Really?
Because there's all kinds of germs on raw chicken. If you wash it, you're spreading those germs all over your sink. You don't know what got on your hands. Those germs will get killed when you cook your chicken, but you will spread them if you wash your chicken before you cook it. So don't rinse your chicken.
I've been doing it wrong.
Don't rinse your chicken.
Oh my goodness. I just learned a whole lot here today. Maybe somebody in this house will be grateful for this conversation. I'm not spreading all the chicken germs. My goodness. Okay. Favorite tools in the kitchen. What are some that everybody should have?
Well, I come from a mom who was a kitchen gadget. And she had drawers chock full of one-use chicken gadgets. And then she would forget how to use them. So I'm not big on a ton of gadgets, but one of the things I love, two things I love my microplane because I can zest citrus peels. I can also finely zest garlic or ginger or lemongrass if I need to do that. Saves me plenty of time. But the other thing I have is a handheld slicer. And I think mine is made by XO, but there's a million of them out there. But you hold the slicer, use a safety guard if you're not used to it, and you just slice, and it makes I can adjust the thickness on what I do. And I use it when I make my salads. It slices my onions in seconds, my carrots in seconds. If I'm making a coleslaw, it will slice your cabbage in seconds. If you're entertaining and you're making appetizers, half your ingredients are done really quickly with it. So really inexpensive handheld tool. You can also get a mandolin. Mandolins are a little bit more expensive, do the same job. Mandolin comes with different blades, so you can have julienne strips, you can have wide strips, all that kinds of stuff. So I love it. It saves a ton of time in my kitchen.
All right. So I guess what I would love to know at this point is, what is your advice to moms right now? I mean, where do we get started? How do we, if there's something that we should do right now to help prepare for a quicker dinner, and how long should the average dinner take to make during the week?
That really depends on the individual. I strive for 15 to 25 minutes.
Okay.
Again, you can have tremendous meals done really fast once you know the steps and how to do it. So things, if you're starting from scratch, again, start with having a well-stocked pantry, a well-stocked refrigerator. When you're doing your pantry, there's a lot of kitchen organization tips you can do that will also streamline the process. If you make a Taco Tuesday every Tuesday and you don't use a taco seasoning and you use your seasonings from scratch, keep them together. Keep them all in one place. Mm-hmm. You can use Lucite bins to basically corral your seasonings into the way you use them. Put things you use the most up front. When you're putting things in your refrigerator, use a Lucite bin to keep your condiments in. So every time you need to get something, instead of taking everything one by one outside of your refrigerator to get to the one ingredient that's hiding in the back, if it's in a bin, all you have to do is lift out the bin, take it out, take what you want, put the bin back. Mm-hmm. Little time savers really help. So good kitchen supplies, good pantry supplies. Know what your calendar is like. Know what your family schedule is like. Don't plan on being ambitious for dinner if you're going to know you have to work late, or your kids have activities, or somebody's not around to help out, or it's going to be a test for your kids the next day and they're panicking, whatever it is. Know what your schedule is. And maybe that's one of the days you want to plan to either reuse your leftovers or grab something from the freezer.
All right. So now I want to pivot just to close this off. So now let's say we've got a handle on this dinner thing and we're sitting down, and now we have to sit down with our family.
Yes.
I know that this is another area that you focus on, having conversations and making dinner time a pleasant time. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. There is nothing worse than when you finally figured out what you're going to make, and you finally make it, and you're exhausted, and you sit out at the kitchen table and you look at your kids and go, "How was school today?" And they say, "Fine." And you say, "What'd you learn?" And they said, "Nothing." And you're thinking to yourself, they've been there for 8 hours. They have learned nothing. I just busted my chops to make this dinner and I'm out of conversation. Don't let it happen. Don't fall into that game. So there's many things you can do at the table. I have played games with my kids at the table since they were very little. And depending on the age of your kids, you can make these games more complex or not. If you have very little kids, there's a wonderful game called Headbands. You don't have to buy it. You can make it yourself. Take some flashcards, cut out something from a magazine, print it from your computer, and just a house, a dog, a cat, a table, a flower, whatever it is. And whoever is, quote unquote, it takes that flashcard, puts it on their forehead without looking. And then they have to guess what the picture is. And it's like a 20 questions game. So everybody at the table knows exactly what the picture is, except the person guessing. It's a great fun game. It's a great way to get your kids to start thinking. It's a great way to promote logic in your kids. And it's really funny to see how off base people can be for a really long time for something that's really simple. So that's a real easy game that you can play with your kids. If you have Trivia Pursuit or a game with questions, ditch the board, use the cards at the table and start talking. You can play Mad Libs at the table. Who doesn't like Mad Libs? And that's good for, most kids. And if they're really, really little and they don't know what a noun is, you can say, give me a person, a place, or a thing. And they can answer a question like that. And you can make these games, all kinds of games, harder and more interesting. You can do Ron Robin stories at the table. You can do something about a national holiday. And one of the things I work with my clients is with making a theme dinner to go with whatever that ridiculous, silly national holiday is. I'm going to give you an example of this. So April is National Poetry Month. So one day in April this past year, I said to my family, okay, everybody's got to come to the table with a poem tonight. Well, that went over like a lead balloon. Nobody in my family wanted to do a poem. But, I said, no, it's going to be fun. I said, but you have to use your imagination, because poems can be lyrics to a hip hop song. It can be a TV jingle. It could be a nursery rhyme. I don't care what kind of poem it is. Write something, but you have to come with a poem. So the challenge was on. My kid said, okay, Mom, there she goes again. But when it came down for dinner, everybody brought something down. So my son wrote a poem on why I hate poetry. My daughter brought down some kind of romantic song that she was in love with. My husband took it upon himself to write a rap song, which was so horribly awful that we were basically peeing in our pants listening to it the whole dinner. So there's things you can do, and it lets you know your family better, and they communicate a lot about themselves when you have them talking about things instead of grilling them with the mundane questions that you have every day. So that's one of the things I work with my clients on.
I really like that. That sounds like fun. And then on National Pizza Day, you can make pizza, right?
Absolutely. You can have your family help you make pizzas, like individual pieces. And one nice thing about playing games at the table is if you have picky eaters in your family, if they're having fun at the table, there's very little time for them to resist and have those power struggles, because they're enjoying themselves.
Right.
And so they're more apt to eat what you're cooking because they're there for a fun time instead of a power struggle.
I really like that, Linda. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Do you have anything you'd love to leave us off with before we ask where we can learn more about everything you do?
Sure. I think my tried and true words of wisdom are, it doesn't have to be complicated to be delicious and fun. And sometimes people are their own worst enemy because they put so much pressure onto themselves on, it's got to be good. It's got to be good as what my mother did. It's got to be whatever limitations you're putting on yourself and stresses. But the truth is, it doesn't have to be that way. Back to what you said at the very beginning, you said it has to do with love. And I have always taught my kids the main ingredient in everything I cook with is love.
Right.
And so if you put your love into it and you have great conversation at the table, you are going to be making memorable meals no matter what. And if you make memorable meals, your kids really know what it's about, and they'll be able to pass those values and traditions on to their families. And I think that's really what it's about in the grand scheme of things. So make your meals memorable, fun, easy, and full of yum.
Thank you, Linda. Please let everybody know where they can learn more about you. We're going to stick the link to your tips, right? You're going to give us those tips. We're going to put that link in the description here for everybody to download, and just let us know where we can find you.
Sure. So if you sign up for my easy weeknight quick dinner time sanity saving tips, you'll get on my mailing list. So the link will be with the show notes. You can find me at balaboostassecret.com. You can find me on Facebook at Balaboosta's Secret or Easy Weeknight Dinners for Busy Moms. And you can find me on Instagram at balaboosta.secret. And happy to help anybody. If you have questions, you can leave them in the notes and I'll try to get back to you. But love working with people one-on-one, and it really makes a difference in your life and your family's life when you can sit down and just enjoy each other.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.